Flight attendant insults black billionaire. 4 minutes later, she's escorted off the plane. Excuse me, sir. This section is for first-class passengers only. He looked up, puzzled but calm. He handed her the boarding pass. She barely glanced at it, her tone sharper now. I said return to your assigned seat. Cameras started rolling. Passengers stared. But the man didn't flinch. Moments later, the cockpit door opened, and the pilot stepped out, walking straight to him. Mr. Bennett, he said with a nod, thank you for flying with us. The silence that followed was deafening, because the man she tried to humiliate owned the airline. Welcome, story lovers. Where are you watching from? Drop your city below and hit like if you're ready for more truth-telling stories. Charles Bennett wasn't the kind of man who demanded attention. Despite being the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar airline conglomerate, he preferred flying anonymously. No entourage, no press. Dressed in an immaculate navy suit with polished shoes and a leather briefcase, he stepped onto Flight 743 like any other first-class passenger. This wasn't new to him. He had flown more miles than most of the crew combined. But today was different. This was the inaugural flight of a newly acquired airline, one he now owned a controlling share of. He took his window seat quietly, opened a book, and waited. A flight attendant approached with a forced smile, eyes narrowing ever so slightly. She didn't recognize him. And worse, she assumed. Sir, this section is for premium passengers only. There it was. Entitlement disguised as protocol. Charles looked up, calm. He didn't respond. Not yet. But that single sentence had already set things in motion. The attendant's voice grew sharper as she pointed toward the rear. I'm going to have to ask you to return to your assigned seat. We can't have these kinds of misunderstandings delaying takeoff. Charles glanced at his boarding pass but said nothing. Her voice, now loud enough for others to hear, carried an unmistakable edge. A man across the aisle raised his phone, recording. A woman behind Charles frowned in confusion. Tension buzzed like static in the cabin. Still calm, Charles handed over his boarding pass. The attendant's eyes scanned it and paused. Her lips tightened. Seat 2A, first class. No mistake. But instead of apologizing, she doubled down. I'll need to verify this with the gate, she said, spinning on her heel. Whispers stirred. Eyes turned. Charles leaned back, unbothered. He had dealt with worse. What the crew didn't know was that the airline's new leadership had quietly boarded the same flight. The pilot had been briefed. The staff had not. Minutes later, a murmured conversation crackled through the cockpit door. The pilot emerged, walking straight to Charles with a grin. Mr. Bennett, pleasure to have you with us. Gasps rippled. The attendant turned pale. She had just humiliated the chairman. The man she tried to escort off the plane was the one signing her paycheck. The pilot's voice dropped into something colder. Please follow me, he said to the flight attendant. Her lips parted, searching for an explanation that wouldn't come. I didn't know who he was, she stammered. Passengers watched in silence, phones now aimed like spotlights. There was no way to walk this back. A supervisor stepped on board just as the pilot led her to the front. Without another word, her badge was removed. She was escorted down the jet bridge, not by security, but by her team. The man she tried to belittle never raised his voice and never demanded justice, because he didn't need to. Power doesn't always speak. It just watches as the truth handles everything. Dear audience, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to give it a like. It helps. Charles remained seated, quiet as the plane prepared for departure. The pilot returned to the cockpit, offering a respectful nod. No grand statements, no press release. But every crew member knew a line had been crossed and consequences arrived swiftly. The woman's actions weren't just about rudeness. They revealed something more profound, an assumption rooted in race, status, and control. She saw a black man in first class and saw a problem. What she didn't see was the truth. By the time the flight landed, the video had already gone viral. Charles never commented publicly. Because absolute power doesn't chase applause. It exposes the systems that still need fixing. How many others, without his status, face the same treatment daily but without justice? Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories and new videos. Take care.